Let's start this over again. Hello, everyone. I'm reacting to the Tribeca Games Spotlight. We did the Summer Game Fest main show yesterday, along with the Day of the Devs and the Devolver Direct. We're going to be doing Summer Game Fest reactions all week here on Spawn Trap. So you can see Saturday morning, we're going to be having a long showcase. Sunday is going to be the Xbox showcase and PC gaming show. Monday, Ubisoft and Capcom, and then whatever else gets announced throughout the week. Upload VR is on Tuesday. Still waiting on some other stuff. Limited run games, maybe Nintendo. We'll see. But let's see what this is. I really have no expectations for this.
The city is back,
and
it's exciting.
It's just me today.
Film festival that really gets to
So
the
you guys
soul
just get me.
and the heart of downtown New York filmmaking.
And this is a film festival that's going on. They do have a showcase of just video games. I know that Kojima has something that he's talking about or showing off at the festival, so it's gonna be interesting. I really don't know what else to expect other than that. I haven't really looked it up.
Since I was a kid,
I did do, I think last year I did a reaction for this Spotlight as well, so.
The world for a bit. You know, some people might say, well, go read a book. And I'm like, I don't want to read a book. I want to be in an interactive adventure. I want to feel like I'm part of the story.
I am Julian Cordero, and my game is Despelote.
Goodbye, Volcano High.
Remember that?
Stray Gods?
A Highland Song.
Chunks of Sinnoh.
You're giving us previews of what to look forward to?
The Expanse.
Okay. Yeah.
Welcome to Tribeca Games.
I must have climbed the hill behind the house 100 times. I know every stone. But after that hill, there's another. And then another.
All right.
again.
Well, the music's getting me
And
here.
after all that, then that's the sea. And I've never been there.
A Highland Song is a narrative adventure game set in the wilds of the Scottish Highlands. You play as Moira McKinnon, a teenager on her way to the sea for the first time. But to get there, you're going to have to find your way through the wild mountains and the valleys. You'll have to survive the weather, and you'll learn a bit about the stories and the history of the Highlands on the way.
Inkle is an independent game studio based in the UK, and we specialise in narrative games, so we make games in all sorts of genres, but our main focus is on games that tell really strong stories.
Our most famous game is probably 80 Days, an adaptation of Jules Verne's classic novel.
The main hook of 80 Days is that you can go around the world any way you like. The way that Highland Song works is extremely similar to 80 Days. You start in one particular point and you can choose all sorts of different routes through the Highlands in order to reach your goal. But it also ends at a single point because you're trying to reach the lighthouse where your Uncle Hamish lives by the sea.
Finding the right gameplay for a game like a Highland Song can be really difficult. Gameplay is usually built around loops and patterns, but good narratives aren't made out of loops. We want to make sure that the character isn't doing anything just for the sake of gameplay, but everything the character's doing has to make sense within the narrative.
So the reason that we've essentially created our very first platforming game is that
I like this
it
as there's
makes sense
a
for the character within
2D
the scenario to be jumping,
like,
scrambling over
sort of like a
rocks,
hand-drawn kind of
and
art
he
style,
uses a rhythm
but
action mechanic.
there's depth to the
So in
world.
many ways,
You
it's
see just
like
layers
building
of the
a game
background
you've ever
have
created.
a different, you know, everything's, there's like layers to it, there's depth to it.
Highland Song are quite realistic. She has a limited amount of time that she can climb. She gets hurt if she falls too far. She can rest to recover her strength. She gets affected by weather and affected by nighttime and affected by cold. A lot of our mechanics are built around the tension between knowing where you are and being lost. We have a map mechanic, which is all about that. It's about finding little pockets of knowledge, learning the names of peaks and understanding the history of the peaks to help you find your way through this world.
At Inkle, we've always loved hand-drawn 2D illustration. We love how expressive it can be, especially for characters. Even when we made 3D games, we still had 2D characters because we loved the overall effect. I grew up in Scotland. When I was a teenager, I went up into the Scottish Highlands with 3 friends and we got lost and we had to stumble through rivers and bogs. It was really quite a chilling, scary experience. My parents are art historians, and there was always one painting in particular that they had that I used to love as a child. It had a little ruined castle by a loch and these Scots pine trees and this golden brown colour palette that was just so characteristic of the region. And so going for a really painterly aesthetic was a way to capture that. The more modern take on that is the digital paintings of concept artists such as Paul Scott Canavan, who we worked with on this project. And he came up with this really beautiful way of hand painting rocks and trees and grass and then assembling them as a huge collage, but then all built up so that the overall effect is of a painting coming to life.
When people play a Highland song, I really want them to come away with a strong sense of the place, the Highlands themselves. There's this tension in that place between being full of story and history and the marks left behind by people, whether that's ruined farmhouses or whether that's just
By the way, I have no
attached
idea
to
how long the
various
showcase
people,
is.
the stories
I
behind
was
those names, which often go back a
expecting
very,
about
very
an hour,
way
so
deep.
When I first kind of conceived of the game, I tried to forget.
they kind of did their
everything
like
about what
quick little
games
preview at
we'd
the
made in
beginning
studio
with
before, what
not a whole
games were out
lot of
there. I
games,
just tried
so
to
I imagine it's not going to
imagine
be
what do
more
I
than
want
an
on my
hour.
Switch for me to play right now, and pretty much a Highland song as the way it looks and feels popped into my head, and I can't be prouder of what we've created.
Goodbye, Volcano High. Seen this before. I thought this game was out already. Or maybe it is.
Co-op
They're just
is
talking
a game
about it.
studio that's based originally in Montreal, but is now remote and worldwide. It is a cooperative.
Basically, that means that we make all major decisions together. We decide whether we want to work 4 days or 5 days. Spoiler alert, we decided to do 4 days.
So there's no like leadership or anything.
And we are starting to put together things, and we all vote on what we think is what everybody would like to work on.
And
Wouldn't that be nice if that's how
you voted for
worked?
it, you chose it.
It was really important for us to feel like this was a different space where people actually could be the voices behind the games that we make.
We are the makers of some charming, fun games like Winding Worlds and Nog, and the upcoming Goodbye Volcano High.
Goodbye Volcano High is a cinematic visual novel about dinosaurs in their final year of high school. At the start of the year, they find out that a meteor is coming. And the game is about asking yourself, what would you do if you had 1 year left? Who would you be? Who would you want to love? And how would you want to go out?
I vote yes.
I don't think this is a voting type situation.
I mean, it does kind of belong to all of us. Or it was supposed to.
It does. You did a great job.
So, what do you say, Fang?
We chose dinosaurs for Goodbye Volcano High for a couple of reasons.
Wow.
Originally, when we presented the game to everybody else, it was meant to be a dating sim because, like, at the time, this was kind of like the hot thing to work on was dating sims. And then we were like, hold up. Here's the hook. It's a dating sim with dinosaurs at the end of the world. As soon as you start talking about a meteor, even though the characters are unsure what's going to happen, you know it's going to happen.
And that was really important to us because we wanted to make something that could tap into the anxiety of our current times. And Dinosaurs was a really great way to create that metaphor instantly.
As it went on and we became kind of more ambitious and more interested in making what we actually like, we were like, what if it's an anime and we tell a story that isn't necessarily so focused on dating, but really goes deep into the emotional aspects of the end of the world.
So high school already feels like it's the end of the world to most people, so it wasn't really that hard to hone in on the teen angst. It's really the hope that's tricky to encapsulate.
High school to me is all about that sweet, sweet balance of doom and hope.
Hope for the better future, hope for the dreams we chase and the ambitions we strive for. Those are things that can feel impossible to cling to, especially with something that can't be stopped and feels inevitable, like a giant meteor hitting you.
And communities all across the continent reacted to the news of a previously unknown space object this morning.
So, how do you deal with that?
It starts off very joking. They're kind of making gallows humor jokes.
In light of the whole space rock potential demise of civilization thing, my chosen theme feels off.
What's the theme?
Using this year to, make an impact?
Our characters all have different methods of coping. Some double down on their ambitions, determined to accomplish their dreams before it's too late. Others slow down and decide to savor what time they have left, regardless of what their dreams are.
We can still win Battle of the Bands, asteroid or not.
The player character essentially ends up being the UI, and you end up playing as Fang's inner monologue.
I think this means she's rooting for us?
Music is really important in Goodbye Volcano High, and I would actually say music is really important to our studio and all of our games. It's core to our DNA, and music is central to the identity of the people who make the game, and so it is central to the identity of the game itself and the characters within it.
There's no performance in this game that is separate from the narrative. It is essentially the same as having a scene of dialogue, but you're playing music.
Scaled our way out of this water well.
So, I'm so confused what this game is.
Fang is kind of gearing up for their future
So it's
as a musician, and then
it's a
realizing
narrative,
they
like
have a future.
choose your
So those two
story
things are
game,
kind of
like
clashing in their
kind of like Telltale or whatever, but also a dating sim, but also a rhythm game. It's so confusing.
I think every person hopes that they get to be near people they love and who understand them and that love them. Those are things people can grasp no matter how much time they have left.
I think that this game really encourages people to be brave, to do the brave thing, and love each other and be there for each other, even when it's scary, even when you don't know what's going to happen.
Focus Entertainment, okay, cool. I'm watching this and I'm just like, all I can think of is like, man, I really hope Nintendo does something this year.
Bonjour, je suis Thomas. Nous sommes les cofondateurs de
Hi
One
Thomas,
Disc, et nous
hi
sommes ici pour
Julian.
parler de Chants of Scénar. Avec Chants of Scénar, nous avons voulu proposer une aventure originale basée sur le mythe de Babel. On a essayé de vous plonger dans la peau d'un voyageur qui débarquerait dans un pays complètement inconnu. Tout au long de son ascension, le joueur va rencontrer 5 peuples différents. Chaque peuple a ses propres coutumes, sa propre histoire et évidemment sa propre langue. Comme chacun de ces peuples parle des langues différentes, ça fait des siècles qu'ils ne se comprennent plus. Une partie du jeu et de l'aventure va consister à comprendre les raisons de cette division et peut-être essayer de rétablir l'harmonie dans la tour. Quand
Quand on a compris qu'on voulait travailler sur les langues, on a eu cette idée de s'inspirer de la tour de Babel, parce que c'est un mythe qui est très puissant, qui parle des hommes qui essayaient d'atteindre le ciel en construisant une gigantesque tour. Et ça a déplu aux dieux qui ont décidé de les frapper d'une malédiction, en leur faisant tous parler une langue différente. Ce qui est important et original dans le jeu, c'est que les langues sont des puzzles en soi. Pour nous, un mot c'est pareil qu'un levier, une porte, une clé. On comprend des langues en résolvant des puzzles, et résoudre des puzzles nous permet de comprendre des langues.
Chant of Sonar est avant tout un jeu d'aventure. Au-delà de l'aspect puzzle, le joueur devra explorer l'environnement, interagir avec différents personnages et participer à des scènes d'action et d'infiltration.
Donc on a eu cette idée de créer un héros qui serait plus un traducteur, un diplomate, un scientifique quelque part, et qui soit dans cette démarche de réconciliation. Le personnage lui-même n'est pas un personnage violent, c'est pas un personnage fort, c'est pas un guerrier. Il va s'en sortir, il va trouver les clés autrement que par la violence. C'est important pour nous de montrer ça, puisque quelque part ce qu'on essaie de montrer dans le jeu, ce qu'on essaie en tout cas de dire dans le jeu, c'est que la violence n'est pas forcément le moyen de tout résoudre.
You had a cat
Les
in the
inspirations
game, and then I
artistiques
get
du jeu, elles se
excited.
trouvent principalement dans la bande dessinée européenne des années 70-80, puis plus tard, on a élargi les inspirations du jeu. On a convoqué le brutalisme, l'architecture mauresque, l'architecture indienne, et c'est ce qui nous a permis de créer ce monde un peu pluriel.
I don't know if this game is doing anything for me.
Chant of Sonar est une invitation au voyage, à la tolérance et à l'ouverture sur les autres.
D'ordinaire, les langues étrangères sont vues comme un frein. C'est d'ailleurs pour ça qu'on parle de barrière de la langue. Mais dans Chant of Sonar, ce contexte est voué à être dépassé, puisque les langues y sont à la fois l'obstacle et la solution.
Okay.
On espère que vous aurez du plaisir à découvrir la tour.
What I do like is it's a puzzle game. I do like
Évidemment,
those.
nous avons hâte d'avoir vos retours.
Okay. Chance of something.
Nightscape is a 2.5D atmospheric adventure game where the ancient Arabian night sky loses its light.
I feel like this showcase is like even more so than like wholesome games. I feel like I don't know if this is like a weird comparison or not, but the Tribeca spotlight for all of Summer Game Fest feels like the lo-fi Spotify playlist of the whole entire showcase.
Accompanies Layla in her journey.
These days, people do not know much about
Okay, cool, chill games.
Especially
I know that there's wholesome games. They're doing a showcase tomorrow, but even more so, like this seems like at least like wholesome games is like cute and poppy kind of stuff. This is all like I'm listening to a lo-fi playlist while watching this.
Having this sky ground connection, having Layla use the constellation's abilities to solve puzzles and help with Layla in defeating enemies.
Side-scrolling puzzle platform.
Being 2.5D,
Okay.
you can actually walk into the screen.
Mhm.
There's a lot there that allows
It's not
them to make the
2.5D.
game
It's
more
3D. 2 point.
This is a brand new experience for me, building a team from the
2
ground
point.
up.
A lot of. Damn it. I know there's like arguments over this, but
And very recently we found our technical artist in Zach.
a lot
Those
of
three are the
like
powerhouse
understandably but incorrectly developers and everyone describe 2.5D as a three-dimensional game that you navigate in a two-dimensional space. That game is a three-dimensional game where you navigate in a two-dimensional space, but you're also navigating in a three-dimensional space. So it's a 3D game. But it's primarily a 2D movement or directional game with some 3D movement where like you want to describe it as a 2D game, but in all aspects it's a 3D game. That's why they say 2.5D. When 2.5D is supposed to be games like Doom, the original Doom, where it is a 2D game, but it's manipulated to look like it's kind of 3D. That's what 2.5D. That's what it's supposed to be. I feel like there needs to be another phrase or term for this. The accurate term and phrase is it's a three-dimensional game that you navigate in a two-dimensional space. But that's too long to say.
Like the Philippines, where
I feel like you know the HD 2D phrase that or 2D HD or whatever that a lot of people are using for like Octopath Traveler or stuff like that, where it's a pixelated. We've seen a lot of that this year and these showcases where we see like a very pixelated two-dimensional art style in a three-dimensional world with three-dimensional lighting and effects and everything that really make it stand out and pop and it looks incredible, like it's awesome. So I do like the 2D HD style, but why don't we call these games 3D 2D or 2D 3D, like instead of 2.5D? 2.5D is just factually wrong. It's just the easier way that people explain how these games work. I'm gonna write that game down.
Is the world too much, or is it just me?
So when you hear 2.5D, you know what they're talking about, but it's not entirely correct. It's an adoptive phrase
Games industry is
or
always
term.
absolutely convinced that we can only be this and this only until someone comes along and proves them wrong.
Stray Gods is a role-playing musical where you control the song. You play as Grace, a college dropout who's not quite sure what to do with her life.
A woman living in the modern world who encounters the last of the Greek muses.
Calliope?
Who dies in her arms, passes on her powers,
It's
and
ridiculous.
Grace discovers that the Greek gods are alive and well and hidden in the modern world.
We think that Stray Gods kind of appeals beyond just fans of video games. It's a really unique story and a unique experience.
There are so many elements that go into this game to make it special that you can attach to any one of them and have an incredible experience.
Stray Gods is what we call a role-playing musical. It's not really a genre that's ever existed before.
You say you didn't kill Calliope. You have 1 week to prove it. What do I do?
Start singing.
This is a game with branching musical numbers where the key decisions in the story are made in musical numbers that change depending on your choices.
The way that we tackle music is one that people have never seen before. Boarding multiple branching paths that should link up to each other. There's a lot of considerations to factor in. It's very complicated, but it feels very worth it in the end.
Perfectly fine on her own.
We got to work with some of the best, the most talented voice actors in the world.
Oh shit.
The most
Oh
talented
shit.
people on Broadway. Like,
wow.
What more could you ask for, really?
They really did.
Some champions
Damn.
like Austin Wintry, David Gator, Tribeca has been nuts.
At the end of the day, it came down to our composer, Austin. He works some kind of dark magic, and you get it all back.
There's a lot of big names in
He
just
transforms
2
that
seconds
tape.
there,
This
man.
is absolutely amazing.
You'll have to see.
Was this
We
the
have
Spare
such
Gods
incredibly
or
complex,
what's this called?
thoughtful characters in this game. Every single character in the game has the potential to be a favorite.
My favorite character is Eros.
I really love Aphrodite. I think she is beautiful.
Oh, no, that's too hard of a question.
My favorite character is, I think, Orpheus.
My king, Orpheus. He's my favorite. It used to be Hermes, but Orpheus, emo king, love.
Look at me, who do you think I am? I'm saying Medusa. I am the #1 Medusa fan in the office.
I love Medusa, and I love Persephone, and I adore Freddie. But my favorite...
I reckon my favorite character is Freddie.
Stray Gods?
I'm really going to go against the grain here. My favorite character is Freddie.
Everybody's going to say Freddy, so I thought I'd say someone else as well.
But my favorite...
I'm writing this down because the gameplay doesn't really like intrigue me that much, but I'm writing it down because 1, I'm interested to see what the music is like, and 2, they got an impressive cast of voice actors and singers.
A lot of the games that I've worked on in my career.
We've assembled this superstar group of people. It is a Voltron of game development.
Early on, Liam made a conscious effort to make sure that everyone that we hired culturally fit, but also had a conscious effort to make sure that we weren't hiring the same kind of people.
Every single person who came onto this project brought something wholly and uniquely theirs.
It's one thing to be able to hire to have diverse voices. It's also another thing to make sure that those voices are heard. It's just important for us that everyone, one, feels safe enough to share their opinion, and two, diverse enough that many opinions are shared from all sorts of walks of life.
At the end of the day, gaming is about joy, and I really like being reminded that making games can also be about joy.
That is incredible, man. Oh my god.
The idols will be no more.
August 3rd. Wow, okay. That's soon. The Expanse I've heard of. So far, it's not like an impressive showcase so far, but there's been some interesting stuff.
Intellectual property, and that it's huge, and that the characters are the forefront of what they are focusing on.
What is so compelling about it is that it works in several different mediums, right? I mean, we began with the books, and then I think what was so special about the television show was that it
Oh
was
yeah, that's right. That's where I heard it. It's a show.
in at the same
So okay, so
What's unique
there's a
about
game
the
now.
Telltale Stories is that we give our players agency over the characters.
Oh, this is
which
Telltale.
basically means that their choices shape
Okay.
the overall story.
We know
so
what to
they're
expect.
actually living in the story as opposed to just following along with it.
I don't get how
When
Telltale
you're adapting
exists
a television
now.
property into a video game property, you have to think
Because
about
it's
what the
an
fan is
entirely
expecting when
different
they're coming into. This takes
company
place
now,
years
right?
before the first season. We're getting to see the world through Kamina Drummer's eyes.
They just adopted
She
the
is a
name and
belter, somebody who's out in deep
re-releasing
space
their
and has
old
grown up
games
and
and
has
making
never
new
set
games
foot
in
on a
that
planet.
style.
So her perspective
Like completely different
is really
company.
different.
Because they fight like that.
Look at these moons without thinking about the Earth
The developer went
all
under,
the resources on them and giving nothing to them.
and then they were
hoped
kind
to
of
portray
acquired,
her,
but not exactly.
especially at the beginning of the video game, as a little bit more vulnerable and open, and to see the events that cause her to harden.
Just like series. Bossing everyone around, only this time no dolls to keep you on the leash, yeah?
A really awesome character like Drummer deserves to have really interesting situations to be put in that fans have come to expect from the show, and now it's like they're getting to play an episode of The Expanse, but in video game form. We can do things like put zero-G in the game, but we have to think about it from what's a good interaction medium, and changing that from what you may have seen in the show slightly to make sure that it's something that you can grok immediately and that feels good on the sticks, but that is also representative of what you see in the show. Those characters have really complex issues that they're facing regularly, and in narrative games, we want to give players these gray areas to really think, is this the answer I wanted to choose, or do I want to choose this answer? And that they both have their upsides and their downsides. And so The Expanse is perfect for that.
Drummer, his suit is punctured and losing pressure. You need to release the vault and patch him now or he could die.
Belay that. That vault has O2, fuel, armaments. We can't afford to lose it.
It was a really interesting challenge to come at the same character in a completely different medium.
Deck 9 is a video game studio. We are known for our narrative, our characters, and our motion capture technology.
It's a completely blank white room. You've got some tape on the floor, maybe a few things made out of wire to show where a door frame might be or something like that, but otherwise it's pure imagination.
I assume you didn't come here to talk about crystals.
We have a new target.
What is it this time, El Dorado? The Fountain of Youth? Let me guess. The Falcon Horde of Venus?
The UNN Urshanabi. Cap believes there's something valuable on board.
Something that we are really excited for people to experience in the Expanse of Telltale series is the emotional performance that we're getting from our actors that comes through with our technology, and from our animators that really bring out the personality in these characters.
I work for you, but you don't own me.
Believe me, I'm well aware.
Just want to make sure you're not having second thoughts about our deal.
Oh, come on. We're equal partners. We pay the crew, the costs, and the overhead.
The rest is 50-50. You and me.
I mean, that's the joy and the beauty of a job like this, is that I get to play.
We're hoping that you form these bonds with these characters and that they are something that you carry with you after you're done playing the game and you're thinking about it later. That to me is always a testament of good storytelling, is am I thinking about it long after I experienced the game itself.
Well, not for me. I've not seen the show. Not a huge Telltale fan. So.
I am Julian Cordero, and I'm the lead developer and programmer in Despelote. Despelote is a game about soccer, and it's a slice-of-life adventure game set in 2001, when Ecuador was really close to qualifying to the World Cup for the first time. Everybody was incredibly excited about this moment, and you see it through the eyes of an 8-year-old kid kicking a ball around with your friends in the park.
Okay.
When I was growing up, I played a lot of soccer. In Ecuador, the culture of soccer is very big, and if you're a boy and you're not playing soccer, it's hard to make friends. A lot of my best friends I made were through playing soccer. But then when I moved to the US, I wasn't really watching or playing soccer for a few years. That sort of made me take a step back from it. I sort of realized this, and I was like, oh, this had such a big role in my life. I wanted to make this game to sort of figure out what it was that was really interesting about soccer growing up. When I started making the game, the first thing I focused on was this relationship with the ball, and making the ball this physical object that you're kicking around. More than creating a soccer match, I knew that I wanted to just your relationship with the ball, and how that sort of then relates to your environment. Immediately was thinking, okay, what should it look like? And there was this artist and musician, Sebastian. I really liked his work.
My name is Sebastian Balbuena, and I am in charge of the art in Despelote. That includes 2D animation, 3D modeling, and also the music. This is actually the first video game I have ever worked in.
I knew the game was going to be in 3D because I wanted the game to be feel very physical, and this the physical connection with the ball.
We wanted to find a graphic style that could communicate emotions, and we found that the 2D hand-drawn animation was the best way to do that.
We developed the art style sort of around his previous work, and his
the first person
sort of feels very nostalgic
3D
to us to have these
soccer game,
this very great
but with a 2D
that was just
art
very
style.
important to have that dynamic, the background being so noisy, the characters being so hand drawn and so clean. As soon as I was okay, well, what's the setting for this game? The only really idea I had was where I have played soccer in my life, which is in Quito. That's where the game sort of had to be set. It became really important for us to capture Quito in a way that was very true to us. So we're using a lot of pictures, and the buildings are all real buildings.
Some of the voices are from people that we knew. We wanted to have the same feeling that you get when you listen to people's conversation in the street. So that's why we went with the improvisation for the dialogue.
It's all improvised, really. We approached a lot of friends and family in Ecuador. The parents are played by my own parents, so there's an interesting dynamic happening there as you run around as a kid. The scene we said is it's 2001. Ecuador is just coming out of this big economic crisis, and there's this idea we can qualify to the World Cup, and that's really exciting. And it's been great because I think it's bringing in a lot of this sort of communal understanding of the moment. So my parents aren't really big soccer people, but the excitement of qualifying to the World Cup was so big that even they were really excited about it.
Oiga, ya está jugando el Ecuador, vamos a ver. Todo el mundo está hablando de que este sí hay chance.
Capturing this moment in time was important because I think for my generation, the first time we qualified to the World Cup, it sort of meant oh, Ecuador is a tiny little country, but all of a sudden we were in the world stage, and we were playing against Italy, and we were in the big newspapers, and that felt like a really big thing. Pelota in Spanish means ball, And despelote is sort of a saying that people have. Is like, esto está hecho un despelote, is like, this is a mess. So it's sort of like a play on words, like ball and like mess. We're growing up with this idea of si se puede, which is what the people chant to the soccer team, which means, yeah, we can do it. Si se puede and si se pudo, like we can do it and we already did it. Like that's not something my parents were able to like grow up with. People like grasp onto it so much, and I think it like really gave a lot of people so much hope. And I think for me, like that being like one of my earliest memories, it sort of made me grow up thinking like, oh yeah, like yes, we can. I hope that people really enjoy just running around in Quito. I think we've built it in a way that is based on a lot of our memories. Instead of like trying to recreate it directly one-to-one, it's more of like a fuzzy memory. And I hope that feels very like transportive for people, and they can experience what this moment in time in Ecuador was and how I felt through that time.
Ese Caviedes, ahí está sacándose la camiseta.
That it? So it's only about a half an hour. Alright, much shorter than I was expecting. There were a handful of games. I only wrote down 3. But, I mean, I'm intrigued by them. So I've been just writing down games because I feel like I watch these showcases and I write stuff down to like, oh yeah, I want to like keep track of this game. But I don't actually do that. And I end up like seeing stuff like I make games or I make videos where I talk about like free games you can play every week, and also I see like when there's like sales, stuff like that going on. I can go full screen here. So when I see that kind of stuff, that's when I get reminded of these games. But otherwise, I end up forgetting about them. Like, oh yeah, I remember seeing a showcase on that. I really liked the game. I completely forgot about it. And just making more conscious effort to like actually wish list these games. And there's been a point driven home during a lot of Summer Game Fest and the other showcases that for PC games, hey, make sure you wishlist this game. So that's obviously it's something that we should all probably be doing. You know, it will help developers and also, you know, it shows like what games people are anticipating on Steam. I'm sure that helps as well. But also helps me keep track of it. I get notified when sales go on and be like, oh yeah, I remember this game. I should check it out when there's demo or any sort of news. Also, just recently, this past year, I've been gifted games off Steam, and I've had that like every once in a rare while. But it was like there's like quick like intervals of that where it's like, why am I getting gifted games on Steam? This is weird. Like I never even thought of that as a possibility, and it's like I should actually increase my wit because there's like just a lot of stuff where it's just like I already have that game, or it's a really big like AAA game or whatever, and it's like it's not nobody wants to gift that, or it's like what do you want in your wish list? Like, I don't really want anything, but like a friend picked something out of random that was really on my wish list just because somebody told me to put it on my wish list. It wasn't really a game I really wanted. But I'm like, oh, I should have more variety there so that I can actually like see something like they wanted to gift it to me. So now I'm just writing down games. It's just like, what can I add to my wish list? What do I want to keep track of? And if there's a sale or something, or somebody wants to gift me a game, there's a game that at least I'm interested in. Where if I get gifted a game, I can, play it and follow up with it. So that's another reason why I'm writing the notes down. Obviously there's not a lot in this showcase. I would say that I think it was Nightscape that was the side scrolling one. You give me side scrolling puzzle platformer and I'm in. I'll play it. Highland Song was also a sort of a side scrolling platformer, but in a different way. Because there was like that aspect where you get tired, you get hurt, you have to survive the weather, that sort of thing. So it's interesting. Like I haven't really seen anything like that, including the art style and everything. And then Stray Gods, I only wrote down because the cast list was not expecting that. This seems like a big AAA game cast list of voice actors and singers and celebrities. That's crazy. But also I just want to hear the music. I want to see, but it's a musical game, like literal musical. So I just want to see what that's all about. But it seems like very kind of like Telltale style where you're choosing your adventure and the story. Um, like that sort of thing doesn't really interest me. It's just really like I just want to see the music and it has a great cast. So that's the only reason I wrote it down. So those are the ones that I'm going to be following up on. What did you like on the showcase? Let me know in the comments. We will be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Sorry, 11 a.m. Eastern. 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be a very long morning of showcases for us. I believe I'm going to be joined by Court. I'm not too sure if Jordan's going to be joining us. I know he's going to be joining on Sunday for the Xbox showcase, so that's going to be fun. But we'll see who shows up. I will be here for the full duration of the reaction streams, however long that may be, because I'm not entirely too sure. We're starting off with the Future of Play Direct from Glitch. That's going to be an hour long, followed immediately by the Wholesome Games Direct, which is also an hour long. And I think we pretty much know what kind of vibes that showcase is going to be. It's just like it is every year. Then the Future Game Show from Games Radar. They do this every year. It's usually a bit of a cringe performance, but a lot of a wide variety of different kinds of games, a lot of which we've probably already seen from the Guerrilla Collective. If you watch that, we didn't do a reaction here. I did my own separate reaction. But if you watch that, you might see games from there, from Summer Game Fest and other showcases. They tend to repeat a lot of stuff. But what's interesting is that showcase usually goes at least an hour and a half. It's typically been an hour and a half to 2 hours. This year, I was expecting it to be the same, and it still might be. There's no definitive announcement on the expectation of the duration of the showcase. But it is now, it wasn't before, but it is now officially part of Summer Game Fest. It was its own separate thing before, but now it is officially part of Summer Game Fest. Now, also part of Summer Game Fest is the OTK Games Expo. That's not technically on our schedule for tomorrow. It has been something that we've been aware of for recently. I didn't know it was a thing. Apparently it was also something last year. Completely missed it. But it is scheduled an hour after the Future Game Show starts. So I was expecting Future Game Show to be lengthy and it might cut into the OTK Games Expo, and that's why we weren't going to do it. But OTK Games Expo, between the two of them, was the first one to be officially part of Summer Game Fest. And so that's why I was going to include it on our schedule, because at that time it was scheduled 2 hours, or before that time it was scheduled 2 hours before or after the start of the Future Game Show. The problem was when it was officially announced as part of Summer Game Fest, when I looked up the schedule to confirm, they had moved it up an hour ahead, which puts it an hour after the Future Game Show starts. So naturally, I was thinking, we're gonna have some time. If it's part of Summer Game Fest, we should make some effort to. I'm sure this Future Game Show is going to end by the time that the OTK Games Expo starts, so I'm sure we'll be fine. Then I looked it up and it was moved up an hour, and I'm like, oof, I don't think so. I think it's going to cut right into it. But then both of them showed up on the official Summer Game Fest schedule, so now I'm not too sure. So it all depends tomorrow how long the Future Game Show goes. If Future Game Show is an hour, which things seem to be a little bit shorter this year, which is a good thing, I think we all complain about how lengthy stuff is on these showcases. They need to be condensed. It is a very big criticism for me for a future game show and PC gaming show specifically, and Gorilla Collective. Gorilla Collective even seemed a bit shorter than they usually do as well. So good to see. Focus on the games, get to the point. We got things to do. There's a lot of other showcases to watch this week. So if Future Game Show is only an hour and it goes right into OTK Games Expo, we will be reacting to the OTK Games Expo tomorrow as well. But so far it is not officially part of our schedule. But it all depends on how long the Future Game Show is. So I will be here throughout all of that. So if we're expecting every showcase to be an hour long, then it's going to be 4 hours of streams in the morning. So cool. There's nothing else planned that day unless there's like some sort of surprise announcement. We're still waiting on what Limited Run Games is going to do for their showcase. They still haven't announced anything. They said the end of last week, we're going to have an announcement soon. It is now the end of this week. It's Friday. They haven't said anything. When is their showcase? Because now it was supposed to be the time. So I don't think they're doing it this week. So unless they're going to do a surprise one Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, then we might do a reaction there. And if it's anywhere past that, we're probably not going to be reacting to it. So yeah, Sunday morning, the Xbox showcase, the Starfield Direct. Looking forward to those. I will be here with Jordan on that day. Later that day is going to be the PC gaming show. Again, I hope it's the same situation as Future Game Show. They tend to show the same stuff. They're actually owned by the same company. PC Gaming Show is run by PC Gamer, which is the sister company to Games Radar, which does Future Game Show. So I don't know why they have two different showcases 2 days apart from each other when they typically show the same games a lot of the times. And it's again a big like filler cringe presentation in between the showcases, which is not like they showed off some great games and it's a huge variety of games, but it's like we don't need all this extra time and extra focus on the same games, and we don't need 2 showcases for that. That's for damn sure. But this is what it is every year, I guess. So Xbox showcase, PC gaming show on Sunday. Monday is the Ubisoft Forward in the morning, and then later that day is going to be the Capcom showcase. Don't know what else is going to be planned. I'm sure there's going to be last minute stuff like the limited run games maybe. On Wednesday is going to be the Upload VR showcase. I am personally expecting and would probably bet on the fact that Nintendo, not the fact, the assumption, the speculation, personally, that Nintendo is going to have a surprise Nintendo Direct in the morning on Tuesday. That's just based on what we've seen typically from them every year during the E3 or Summer Game Fest showcase time. That's typically the slot that they go with, and it is in their style to announce the night before, hey, early in the morning, we're going to have a surprise Nintendo Direct. So it's not out of the question. At this point, I'm anticipating it. So if that's the case, we could be reacting to a Nintendo showcase on Tuesday morning. So that's my expectations. Anyways, if you missed any of our Summer Game Fest coverage, it is up here on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. And we will have the rest of it here as well, obviously. Yeah, keep track with any changes to our schedule or anything on social media everywhere down in the Linktree link down in the description below. Make sure to maybe join our Discord so you know when we go live as well, or you can turn on notifications here, whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, to know when we go live. And we will see you hopefully for the rest of the Summer Game Fest showcases. Thanks for watching. See you next time.